November 3rd, 1944. A desolate coastline near Ichinomiya, Honshu, Japan. 45 a.m. The cold from the Pacific is a razor of ice. It cuts through the thick wool of Technical Sergeant Akira Endo's greatcoat, but he feels nothing. His entire focus is on the paper monster straining, jerking against its tethers, around him. The air is thick with the smell of hydrogen and the acrid tang of konnyaku paste, a smell like rotting potatoes, the only adhesive they have left. The hiss from the hydrogen hoses is the only sound that drowns the surf, a high, piercing shriek like 1,000 angry snakes. This is his unit, the 9th Army Technical Research Laboratory. They are not infantrymen or pilots. They are engineers, meteorologists, and craftsmen assigned an almost impossible task. Their weapon, swelling in the pre-dawn darkness, is not made of steel, but of paper. It is 10 meters wide, a vast sphere crafted from thousands of pieces of handmade washi paper, glued together in 3 or 4 layers. Endo knows this paper intimately. It wasn't made in military factories. It was made by thousands of high school girls, conscripted into service in requisitioned sumo halls and theaters. He can picture their young fingers, aching, meticulously brushing that konnyaku paste, made from the devil's tongue root, onto every thin sheet. They are building an intercontinental weapon from the materials of a farming village. This monster is Fusen Bakudan. Operation Fugo. It is a weapon of desperation and of vengeance. As Endo checks the tethers one last time, his mind flashes back 2 years. April 1942, the sirens tearing the sky over Tokyo. He had seen them, American B-25 bombers, roaring over the city, the Doolittle raid. It was an unimaginable shock. The inviolable homeland, the sacred soil of the emperor, had been touched. That humiliation still burns. Japan could not sail its fleet to the coast of California. But it could send something else. It could send fire. Meteorological data confirmed. A low voice snaps. Major Teiji Takada, the project's lead meteorologist, steps from the command hut. He isn't looking at the balloon. He's looking at the black sky. The river is flowing. The river is their greatest secret. Not the Americans, not the Canadians. No one in the West knows it exists. For years, Japanese scientists had been launching small sonde to measure the winds, at altitudes above 30,000 feet, 9,000 meters. They found it, a narrow band of wind, a river of air, what we now call the jet stream, roaring across the Pacific at speeds sometimes exceeding 300 km/h. This is their highway, an invisible, one-way, uninterceptable weapons delivery system. The vision of Major General Sueyoshi Kusaba, the project's head, was this: a bridge of wind connecting Honshu to North America. They had done the calculations. 5,000 miles, 8,000 kilometers in 3 days. Prepare the gondola assembly. Takada orders. Endo nods. Moving beneath the heaving globe, suspended below it is not a basket, but a sophisticated piece of machinery. It is the brain, a cast aluminum ring holding a mechanism that is both ingenious and deadly. He checks it. A precise aneroid barometer, a bank of lead-acid batteries specially designed to freeze and thaw repeatedly, and a circle of 32 small sandbags. This is the autopilot. Endo visualizes its journey. As the balloon rides the river of air, it will speed east, but as night falls, the hydrogen inside will cool. Contracting, the balloon will lose altitude. That is when the brain will work. The moment the barometer senses it has dropped below 30,000 feet, an electrical switch will close. A small squib, a tiny gunpowder charge, will fire, severing the wires on 2 sandbags. Pop! 2 bags of sand fall into the Pacific. lighter. The balloon instantly soars back up to 38,000 feet, resuming its screaming journey east. It is designed to repeat this cycle 16 times, an automated ballet of ascent and descent, lasting 3 days over the ocean. Endo runs a final check on the wiring. After the last sandbag is gone, the mechanism changes. The next time the barometer triggers, it will not drop sand. It will drop bombs. He taps the metal block hanging in the center. One 15 kilos Type 92 high-explosive bomb, designed to fragment, designed for whoever finds it, but that is not the main weapon. Clustered around it are 4 5-kilo thermite incendiary bombs. This is the true target, not cities, not factories. The forests, the planners had studied maps of North America. They saw the millions of acres of dry, inaccessible old-growth timber in the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon. In the dry season, these forests are a tinderbox. Operation Fougueux is not a tactical bombing run. It is an act of pyro-terrorism. The goal is to start thousands of simultaneous forest fires, to cause mass panic, to force the enemy to divert resources, men, aircraft, supplies from the Pacific front to fight the inferno in their own backyard. It is an attempt to set a continent ablaze. A flare sparks. One of the soldiers is lighting the final fuse, a long, 84-minute delay. After the last bomb is dropped, this fuse will ignite a demolition block, destroying the gondola mechanism and, most importantly, igniting the 19,000 cubic feet, 540 cubic meters, of remaining hydrogen. It is a self-destroying weapon, a paper ghost designed to vanish in a fireball, leaving no trace but the devastation it causes. 04:15 a.m. All stations, report. Major Takada's voice rings out. Hydrogen cutoff. Ballast assembly armed. Scuttling charge fused. Endo grips one of the main guide ropes, feeling the monster's pull. 10 other soldiers do the same, their muscles straining. Surface wind conditions. Optimal, Takada declares, lowering his binoculars. Sergeant Endo, on my command. Endo takes one deep breath of the salt air. He looks at the vast white sphere, now almost invisible in the gloom. It carries their desperate hope. Release! The order is shouted. Men with knives slash the hemp ropes in unison. It is not a gentle release. It is a launch. Freed from the earth, the balloon rockets upward. It does not drift. It shoots into the sky with alarming speed. In seconds, it is just a speck, swallowed by the low clouds. It is already moving east, caught by the first fingers of the river of wind. Within a minute, it is gone, as if it never existed. Silence descends on the launch pad, broken only by the surf. Sergeant Akira Endo pulls his collar tight. He has just launched an invisible intercontinental bomber at an enemy 5,000 miles away. An enemy who doesn't even know such an attack is possible. He turns away, walking toward the next concrete launch pad, where another balloon is already beginning to inflate. They have 9,000 more to send. January 12th, 1945. The prairie south of Eston, Saskatchewan, 14:30 p.m. The silence is absolute. It is a cold so deep it has weight, pressing the endless white landscape flat. Ewan Grant, his face raw above his wool scarf, pulls his horse to a stop. The animal's breath flashes into plumes of instant ice. Ewan is checking his trap lines, a grim ritual in a world defined by rationing and war news from far away. Something is wrong. Ahead, tangled in a sparse copse of poplar trees at the edge of his property, is a slash of white. It's the wrong color. Not the blue-white of the snowdrifts, but a dull, grayish white, like a collapsed parachute. Ewan dismounts, his boots sinking deep into the crust. He pushes through the brittle branches and stops. His mind cannot process what he is seeing. It is a parachute, a massive one, made not of silk, but of paper. It's draped over the trees, torn in several places, and frozen stiff. It smells strange, a faint, foul odor of rotten potatoes. What in God's name? He follows the ropes, thick cords leading down from the paper canopy to a crater in the snow. But it's not an impact crater. It looks more like something burned here. The snow is melted in a perfect circle, revealing the black, frozen prairie soil. In the center of the circle is a tangle of metal. Ewan edges closer. It looks like a piece of farm machinery. Maybe, but like nothing he's ever seen, a metal ring, about 3 feet across, with wires and batteries attached. It's covered in frost. He nudges a piece of the wreckage with his boot. It's heavy. Solid aluminum. He sees sandbags, dozens of small canvas bags, still attached to the metal ring by wires. He picks one up. It's frozen solid. He brushes the snow off and sees lettering. It is not English. It is not French. His stomach tightens. He has seen this kind of writing in the newspapers, in the war bulletins. Japanese. He lets the bag drop. His eyes scan the rest of the debris, and then he sees it, half buried in the blackened snow. It is a metal cylinder, painted gray, about 18 inches long. It has fins. Ewan has never seen a bomb, but he has seen the posters at the recruitment office in Kindersley. He knows what an incendiary looks like. He knows what an anti-personnel bomb looks like. This is a bomb. He stumbles back, his breath catching in his throat. He looks up at the paper canopy, snagged on the prairie trees. He looks at the Japanese writing. He looks at the bomb. He is 5,000 miles from the war. He is 5,000 miles from the beaches of Normandy, 5,000 miles from the jungles of Burma. Yet here, in the frozen heart of Saskatchewan, is a Japanese bomb. It didn't fall from a plane. There are no engine sounds, no wreckage of a fuselage. It floated. A chill, far colder than the January air, runs down his spine. How many more? How many are in the sky right now? Invisible, drifting on the wind. He turns and runs to his horse, his mind racing. This isn't a freak accident. This isn't a lost weather balloon. This is an invasion. He doesn't spare the horse on the ride back to Eston. He bursts into the small Royal Canadian Mounted Police detachment, his words tumbling out in a cloud of steam. Constable James MacLeod, a man used to dealing with lost cattle and the occasional bar fight, listens with growing disbelief. But Ewan Grant is not a man who panics. You're sure, Ewan, Japanese? I've seen the pictures. Jim, it's their writing, and there's a bomb right there on the ground, within the hour. Constable MacLeod is on his horse, riding with Ewan into the dusk. When he sees the sight, the blood drains from his face. He is a veteran of the Great War. He knows ordnance. He unslings his Lee Enfield rifle. Don't touch anything, he orders, his voice low. Go back. Tell no one, not your wife, not your neighbors, no one. Understand? Ewan nods, terrified. MacLeod stands guard over the impossible object as darkness falls. He is alone on the vast prairie, under a sky that suddenly feels menacing. He is guarding the first proof that the war had found a way to cross the world's largest ocean and strike the Canadian homeland. He waits for the military to arrive from Calgary, knowing that his report over the telephone, coded, frantic, must have sounded like madness. But the evidence is right in front of him, frozen to the soil of Saskatchewan. January 13th, 1945. 3:00 a.m. South of Eston, Saskatchewan. The headlights of the military truck cut 2 cones of swirling white from the blackness. The cold is so profound that the truck's engine groans, a metallic complaint against the physics of the prairie night. Constable James MacLeod, stamping his feet to keep the blood flowing, lowers his rifle. He has been standing guard for nearly 8 hours, his world reduced to the frozen poplar trees and the impossible object they hold. The truck shudders to a stop. Doors creak open. 2 men emerge, their greatcoats identical to MacLeod's, but their bearing entirely different. Captain Barnes, Royal Canadian Artillery, bomb disposal. The captain is all business, his breath a sharp fog. He carries a heavy canvas satchel. "You're MacLeod?" "Yes, sir. It's just over here." MacLeod leads Barnes and his sergeant into the small cups. The beam of the captain's high-powered torch lands on the wreckage. Barnes stops. He says nothing for a full minute. He has disarmed Italian Red Devil mines in Sicily. He has dealt with German S mines in the Netherlands. This is nothing he has ever seen. He crouches, his gloved hand hovering over the aluminum ring. "Sergeant," he says, his voice flat, "get the perimeter lights set up. And the kit. Full precautions." He looks at MacLeod. "Constable, your report mentioned Japanese." MacLeod points to the sandbag Ewan Grant had dropped. Barnes picks it up, rubs the frozen canvas, and stares at the kanji. He looks at the paper canopy, stiff as plywood in the frost. He looks at the intricate wiring, the strange batteries, and the unexploded bomb. "They floated this here," MacLeod whispers, unable to help himself. "From where, Constable?" Barnes mutters. Already working, his mind connecting impossible dots. "From a submarine, an aircraft. There was no sound." "Sir, Ewan was positive. No engines." Barnes scans the sky. Empty, black, infinite. He feels a sudden, dizzying sense of scale. A weapon that arrives in silence, from an enemy 5,000 miles away. "Get back to the truck. MacLeod, your job is done. We take it from here." For the next 4 hours, Barnes and his sergeant work with the agonizing delicacy of surgeons. They photograph everything. They measure the paper. They meticulously snip wires, their pliers sticking to the metal. They recognize the incendiary canister first. Then, with extreme care, they locate and neutralize the high-explosive anti-personnel bomb. It is a booby trap, designed to kill the person who found it. Barnes holds the 15-kilo cylinder in his hands. It is crude, but effective. "They meant for this one to hurt someone," he says to his sergeant. "The fire was just the bonus, but it's the ballast system that truly baffles and terrifies him. The barometers, the sandbags, the automatic release mechanisms. This isn't a random piece of terror. It's an automated, intercontinental system. By dawn, the wreckage is packed into wooden crates, loaded onto the truck, and speeding toward the experimental station at Suffield, Alberta, under armed guard. January 17th, 1945. Ottawa, Ontario. An unlisted room. Department of National Defense. The air is blue with cigarette smoke. The men around the heavy oak table are the nerve center of Canada's Home Defense, Commissioner Stuart Wood of the RCMP, Major General Maurice Pope of the Army, and a handful of worried-looking civilians from the intelligence services. In the center of the table sits the evidence from Eston. "We have confirmed," an intelligence officer is saying. "It is a Type 92 high explosive. The incendiaries are thermite-based. The paper is wash-eye, saturated with a vegetable glue." "And the ballast system," General Pope interrupts, tapping a photograph of the aluminum ring. "It's goddamn brilliant. It rides the high-altitude winds. We didn't even know those winds existed. Not like this," an Air Force liaison adds. "The Japanese, it seems, did." The room falls silent. The implications are settling. "So," Commissioner Wood says, his voice like gravel. "An automated, mass-produced, intercontinental weapon, launched from Japan. How many?" The intelligence officer clears his throat. "That is the problem. The report from Eston was not the first. It was just the first one with hardware. He unrolls a large map of Western Canada and the U.S. Pacific Northwest. It is peppered with small red pins. December 18th. A trapper near Kalispell, Montana, found paper fragments dismissed as a weather balloon. January 2nd. Prince George, British Columbia. A logging crew found a small, unexplained fire in the snow. They found metal fragments they couldn't identify. January 10th, near Medford, Oregon. A loud explosion heard in the wilderness. No one could find the source. January 12th, Eston, Saskatchewan. The pins form a terrifyingly wide pattern, stretching from the Pacific coast all the way to the prairies. General Pope stands and walks to the map. They're just getting started, aren't they? We believe so, sir. These are the first arrivals of a wave launched in November. They are probing, finding the range. They've found it, Pope says grimly. They've hit Saskatchewan. Commissioner Wood leans forward. My men, the Mounties, are the only authority in most of these areas. What do we tell the public? Grant, the man in Eston, he knows what he saw? He'll keep quiet, the intelligence officer says. But the next one might land in a schoolyard. It might land in Vancouver. Or, General Pope says, his finger tracing the vast green expanse of British Columbia on the map. It lands in the middle of the Fraser Valley timber stands. In August, the blood drains from the faces in the room. This isn't just a terror weapon. It's a strategic weapon of mass arson. They are in the dead of winter, the wettest, coldest part of the year. The only thing that has saved them so far is the snow. What happens? Pope continues, his voice barely a whisper. When the snow melts, what happens when the forests are tinder dry? A single balloon could start a firestorm we couldn't put out in a year. 100, 1,000. He doesn't need to finish. They all see it. The entire West Coast. From California to the Yukon, ablaze. Cities evacuated. The war effort crippled. The military forced to pull divisions from Europe to fight fires at home. The panic in the room is now tangible, cold, and absolute. We have two objectives, General Pope says, snapping back to command. First, find every last one of these things before they start a fire. Second, we ensure the Japanese never know they've succeeded. Commissioner Wood understands immediately. Censorship. Total. Pope confirms. Not just request for discretion. I mean a full de-notice blackout under the War Measures Act. Nothing, no newspaper, no radio broadcaster, is to breathe the word balloon, bomb, or fire in the same sentence. As far as the public is concerned, these things do not exist. Why? Asks a civilian. Because, Pope says, if the Japanese hear reports on the radio that their bombs are landing in Saskatchewan, they will know it works. They will mass produce them. They will send 10,000. They will send 50,000. They will aim them. Silence, Pope concludes, is our only defense. We will tell the press it's for national security. We will tell them they are preventing the enemy from gaining military intelligence. And what do we tell our own people? Commissioner Wood asks. Thinking of Constable MacLeod, alone on the prairie, we tell our people, General Pope says, to look up and to pray for rain. March 10th, 1945, near Lake Cowichan, Vancouver Island, British Columbia, 11:00 a.m. The air smells of wet cedar and thawing earth. For the first time in months, the snow has pulled back, revealing the mossy floor of the coastal rainforest. Stan McCabe, a logger for the past 20 years, stops his pace. He's checking a timber line, his caulked boots sinking into the mud. He smells smoke. It's the wrong kind of smoke, not the rich, woody scent of a slash burn. This is sharp, chemical, like burnt wiring. He pushes through a curtain of ferns and steps into a small, unnatural clearing. The ground is scorched in a 20-foot circle. In the center, several massive Douglas firs are blackened. their lower branches stripped, and in the middle of the char, metal. It's a tangled mess of aluminum and wires, half melted into the dirt. It looks like the same wreckage he saw back in Saskatchewan. But this one worked. This one started a fire. Only the dampness of the forest floor, still saturated from winter, had kept it from spreading. A few yards away, snagged in the high branches of a hemlock, hangs a massive sheet of tattered paper. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Stan whispers. He's not a panicky man. He fought at Vimy, but this is different. This is here, in his trees. This fire, a month from now. 2 months. It would have taken the whole valley. He backs away, slowly. Then runs the 2 miles back to his truck and floors it to the nearest logging camp to use the telephone. Within 3 hours, 2 men are there. They aren't in RCMP red serge. They are in unmarked black cars. They wear dark suits and speak with crisp Ottawa accents. Mr. McCabe, you found this? Aye. It started a fire. Just smothered itself in the muck. Did you touch anything? No. Sir, I know a bomb when I see one. The men look at each other. They photograph the site, carefully bag the metal fragments, and cut down the paper from the tree. What is it, then? Stan demands. It's Japanese, isn't it? One of those balloons. The senior man snaps his briefcase shut. You saw nothing. Mr. McCabe, this was a flare from a downed aircraft, a military training exercise. For security reasons, you will not discuss this with anyone, not your crew, not your wife. It is a matter of national defense. Am I understood? Stan looks at the blackened trees. He looks at the grim-faced man. A flare! Stan repeats, his voice flat. A flare. The man confirms. Good day. Stan watches them drive away. He's left alone with the smell of chemicals and the scorch mark. He knows he wasn't told the truth. April 1945. All across Western Canada. The snow is gone. The secret is not. The silent panic has begun. In Terrace, BC, a farmer's wife finds a crater in her field and reports it. The RCMP arrive. Tell her it was likely a frost heave, and take the shrapnel they find. In Alberta, near the U.S. border, 2 children find a long, silk-like piece of paper in a river. Their father, a veteran, recognizes the kanji on the attached metal plaque. He burns it, terrified, and tells his children they will never speak of it again. In the interior of BTC, a special squadron of the Royal Canadian Air Force, officially on forest patrol, is scrambled. Their pilots are not looking for fires. They are looking for balloons. They are ordered to shoot them down on sight, but only at high altitude and only over unpopulated areas. How do you find a 30-foot paper ball at 30,000 feet? The sightings become a flood. By mid-April, the military is tracking hundreds of incidents. A balloon is found in Manitoba. One is confirmed as far east as Michigan. They are landing everywhere. The censorship, however, is total. It is a staggering success of information control. The Vancouver Sun is forbidden from printing anything. A radio station in Prince Rupert that mentions a strange explosion has its license threatened by a phone call from Ottawa within the hour. But the silence is creating a new kind of terror. The people who know, the farmers, the loggers, the trappers who have seen the wreckage, are now isolated. They live in a world of whispers. They look at their neighbors and wonder, do they know? They listen to the radio, to the cheerful updates about the Rhine crossing and the advance on Berlin. It all sounds like a lie. The war isn't 5,000 miles away. The war is in the sky above them. The war is in their backyards. They are being hunted by an invisible enemy, and their own government is telling them they are seeing things. The panic is worst in the small, remote communities of British Columbia. They are the target. They know it. Every strange sound in the sky, every wisp of smoke, every unexplained light is a Fusen Bakudan, The loggers in Stan McCabe's camp stop talking. They just work, their axes biting into the wood, and they look up. They scan the horizon. They are waiting for the sky to burn. May 5th, 1945. Near Bly, Oregon, 10:20 a.m. The air is warm, smelling of pine and damp earth. The war in Europe is over. Headlines across the continent are screaming of Berlin's fall, of Hitler's death. The world is celebrating. But on Gerhardt Mountain, the other war feels very close. Reverend Archie Mitchell parks his rusty sedan. His wife, Elsie, 5 months pregnant, steps out, happy to be in the sunshine. With them are 5 children from their Sunday school class: Sherman Hogue, Edward Engen, Jay Gifford, and Dick and Ethel Patsky. They are here for a picnic, a moment of peace far from the grim news that still dominates the Pacific. While Archie moves the car to a better spot, Elsie and the children walk ahead, looking for a good picnic site. "Look," one of the children shouts. "What's that? A balloon?" Elsie and the children move toward a strange object tangled in the trees. It's a large, white paper canopy, collapsed on the forest floor. Below it, they see a strange metal contraption. It doesn't look like the other wreckage they've been warned about. This one seems almost intact. "Don't touch it," Archie yells from the car, seeing them gather around it. He's heard the whispers. He's heard the rumors from the loggers, but he is too far away. Curiosity, innocent and fatal, takes over. One of the children reaches out and tugs at the object. The sound is not a deafening roar. It is a sharp, vicious crack. The 15-kilogram anti-personnel bomb, designed by Sergeant Akira Endo's colleagues to kill whoever found it, does exactly that. Archie Mitchell is thrown to the ground by the concussion. Shrapnel whistles past his head. He scrambles up, his ears ringing, screaming their names. But there is only smoke, the smell of cordite, and a terrible, profound silence. Elsie Mitchell and all 5 children are gone. They are the first and only civilians to be killed by enemy action on the mainland of the continental United States during World War II. The war, for them, was not 5,000 miles away. It was right here, on a logging road in Oregon. May 7th, 1945, Ottawa, Ontario. The news from Bly, Oregon, hits the high command in Ottawa like a physical blow. The silence is no longer an option. The secret is out, written in blood. The censorship dam breaks. Major General Pope and Commissioner Wood know they have lost control of the narrative. Now, they must manage the panic. For the first time, the Canadian government, in coordination with the U.S., issues a public warning. May 8th, 1945, Vancouver, British Columbia. Stan McCabe, the logger from Lake Cowichan, sits at his kitchen table, nursing a coffee. The radio broadcaster's voice, usually so calm and measured, is tight with urgency. "Nadai, these objects are Japanese balloon bombs. They are dangerous. Do not, under any circumstances, approach them. Do not touch any strange metal or paper fragments. Report them immediately to the RCMP or the nearest military authority." Stan closes his eyes. He wasn't crazy. The men in the black suits had lied. All across Western Canada, a strange, collective sigh of relief and terror washes over the populace. The whispers were true. The frost heaves, the downed flares, the weather experiments. It was all a lie. The secret panic is now open. The enemy is overhead. Fear grips the West Coast. People stop going into the woods. Loggers refuse to work in remote areas. Farmers scan the skies as they plow their fields. Every parent in British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan holds their children closer, telling them never, ever to touch anything they find. The Japanese weapon has finally achieved its goal: terror. But it is too late. In Japan, the Fugo program is already failing. The B-29 firebombing raids, a horror far beyond what Fugo could ever achieve, have systematically destroyed the Japanese homeland. The factories producing the hydrogen, the workshops where schoolgirls glued the paper, have been reduced to ash. The Japanese High Command, hearing nothing on the Allied radio for 6 months, had concluded the weapon was a total failure. They had heard no reports of fires, no whispers of panic, because the Canadian and American governments had enforced total silence. The censorship, the very thing that created the silent panic, had been the war's most effective defense. The last balloons are launched in April. By August, the war is over. The final count is never truly known. Of the 9,300 paper bombs launched by men like Sergeant Endo, perhaps 1,000 completed the 5,000-mile journey. Over 300 were found and confirmed in Canada, scattered from the Yukon to Manitoba. They were found in the forests of BC, tangled in power lines in Alberta, and half buried in the snows of Saskatchewan. For decades after, they remained silent, patient, and waiting. Loggers, hikers, and farmers would continue to find them, triggering new waves of bomb disposal calls well into the 1970s. The great Japanese firestorm never came. The river of wind had delivered its payload, but the forests of Canada, saved by a wet winter and a campaign of total silence, had refused to burn. The war had come to Canada, not as a fleet of bombers or an invading army, but as a whisper of paper, a secret, impossible weapon that turned the sky itself into a battlefield and proved that in a total war, there is no such thing as far away.